As you know, 5 years ago, I met you and the other Yjastros members the very first day I ever walked into the Conservatory to begin documenting you all for the Spanish Room. My main purpose for that first film was to try to understand how and why all of you dedicated so much of your lives to flamenco. Now, simply put, I'm back to try to discover what has changed and what has remained the same since that first film. With that being said, let's jump right into it. My first question is, where were you when you heard about the fire, and what was your first reaction?
We, I was at the conservatory, and I was there to pick up some shoes that I had ordered that had just come in. I'm so glad I went and picked them up. And I had seen, it was right after the recital. Everybody was in good spirits. We were all going on break. We were all super happy. We were all just, it was a good vibe that day. And I left to go deposit a check down the street. And I was driving back up past the conservatory, and I was going to go up to the university area to do something. And I just noticed, I saw in between the two storefronts, I just noticed all this black smoke coming out. And I stopped my car and I ran inside and I was like, what's going on? And everybody was coming out right at that very moment. So then we went and stood on the road and just kind of watched, and it was just smoking. It was just, smoking. And we thought, what the heck is this? This is so weird. And I remember standing with Isaías, Marisol's son, and just telling him, well, at least it's just smoke. At least it's not like erupting into giant flames. Next thing, the fire trucks got there and they started putting the water, and right when they got there and they started working, it just, and then we just sat there and watched it.
Tonight, the downtown Albuquerque community is slowly coming to terms with the profound loss.
The National Institute of Flamenco Dance was gutted by flames this afternoon, leaving the only dance school of its kind in the entire country without a home.
It was just so heartbreaking. It was just really sad.
Oh, I didn't believe it. I was like, that's not true.
We saw that there was a fire downtown, and we're like, hey, that looks like the Institute. And then we realized it was, so we called my dad to see if he knew, and he was like, yeah, I'm right there watching it burn now. And it was kind of like unbelievable almost, because that's like where I grew up, a lot of memories there.
It was a shocker. It was a shocker because that's where I first started. That was the studio I knew. I went there every day after school my whole life. It was really a devastation.
Flamenco for me now is,
I think for me, what my visions were as a young person and what flamenco was to me then have changed significantly.
When I was younger, it was kind of there for me. It was, I came to rehearsal or went to class or taught my classes and did all of those things, and I just kind of was going through the steps that I had been told was the way to learn flamenco. Now I'm realizing that in addition to that, it's got to be something that I find for myself.
more prevalent than it was 5 years ago. It's a bigger deal for me than it used to be. I think 5 years ago I was kind of, I was in, I was ready, I was willing to participate as part of the company and do this, but now I kind of see a different future and a different direction with it, and it's something that I don't think is ever going to go away. It's going to be part of my life, always, so it's a bigger deal.
Probably even more now than before. It reaches its tentacles into all parts of my life, and a lot of my choices are motivated through flamenco, and a lot of the work that I do revolves around flamenco in one aspect or another, and I don't really consider it just a dance or a falseta or, those things are all part of what makes it what it is, but it's bigger than that.
Am I flamenco? Am I a flamenco? Yes. I'm not exactly trying to be a flamenco or what is that, but studying flamenco, creating within the realms of flamenco is very much a part of my identity and what I have to do. And it's a ritual and something I have to do every day to fulfill a part of me.
To me, after 5 years, flamenco's still about, in my perspective, a lot of the same things, though it's being manifested in many different ways now in my life. It's still about commitment, and I think it's still about rigor. It's still about giving what you can give, and truthfully all that you can give, and it being so rigorous, it being so much about commitment. It's about the process of commitment.
I feel like if you give 100% to flamenco, then it'll give you everything back in some way. So the effort you put forth, you're going to get a return on it.
For me, when I first started dancing flamenco, I think that flamenco gave me a way maybe out of a lifestyle that wasn't going to be very positive for me. And I was, and it kind of gave me another option, another choice, another venue, which I think ultimately probably in many ways saved my life. And so just that in itself is huge. But I also think that flamenco has led me to so many different things in my life.
Like, I'm by nature like a very nervous and fearful person. That's like sort of my disposition, and I think flamenco is so good for me because it's something that demands strength from you. You know, it's not even just something that you can use to get stronger, you know, like exercising, like going on a run. You can't do it and continue to be afraid or to sort of focus on your weaknesses. You have to really muster a lot of strength to give it its due diligence. And I think the more that you spend time in the art form, the more you really realize just how much it's asking of you.
You never stop learning, and you never stop challenging your assumptions in learning an art. And so I think that that's one of the most powerful things about it, is that as you study, you get a little bit better, and you go, wow, this is so much deeper than I realized, you know, when I first started. And then another year later, you're like, man, God, this is so much deeper than I thought then. And now here, oh my gosh, and look at all of these life lessons that you learn through the art. And it always constantly challenges you to look deeper and to be more free and loose in how you see things, but to be focused and have discipline as you're doing it.
People can study flamenco without anything. Whether or not they're going to be able to get on the stage and do something is a different story. They might be able to have a good understanding and really love flamenco by studying it and by listening to music and not needing the best shoes or not needing the best thing and just enjoying it. And that's what it's there for. You're supposed to enjoy it. So there's that side, and then there's the side of how many turns can you do, and how fast are your feet, and what kind of articulations do you use, and who designed your costume, and all of that stuff that happens. That happens with all art forms at this point. So it's kind of those two. Ideally, you have both.
For a lot of people who feel passionately about something like a dance form like flamenco, living and dancing end up starting to feel like the same thing, right?
You know, for any artist, it's hard out there. It's hard. It's hard. If you decide to be an artist, you know, it's you have to be self-motivated and extremely driven, and really you have to desire it deeply.
I think pretty much I can speak for most of us that we overdo it. We do too much in our day, in our year. But it's all things that are really valuable, so it's like, how do you choose? How do you pick? And because all of it feeds me equally, and so to have to pick and choose, it's hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you have to give up in order to pursue this if you really want to pursue it.
Sometimes I have performances, you know, I was planning to hang out with my friends, but they need me there to go dance, so I go do that instead. And the rehearsal time every day after school, that's taken up a lot.
I've had to sacrifice many things. Like, I would say the biggest thing would be my family. You know, my family who's all in Texas, and they all miss me, and I miss out on you know, special occasions and birthdays and celebrations, and the bad times too, you know, when things go wrong. You know, I wish I could be there, you know, and I still get so homesick. It doesn't get any easier or any better. I think maybe it even gets harder. But on the flip side, I have gained another family here, and so that's, you know, when I have them when I don't have my other family.
up to the last film, Yjastros served like a really important purpose in the growth of flamenco in the New Mexican community and the community in Albuquerque.
It was really exciting when the company was very big for a very particular reason. I think because the company was new at that point and there was a lot of people who were on board, and that just felt good. It was just a sign that it was a living, thriving thing. It's just as much of a living, thriving thing now. It just is there's a different feeling about it. One thing that's so interesting about the makeup of the company is that the people who are here because of matured life choices and like a sort of sustained invitation of this really gnarly thing into their lives. The company is kind of not the point. It is the point, but it's kind of secondary to more of just like a commitment to practice this art form. And I think that's so cool. I think people who are in the company are solid. So it feels solid.
It's gotten to a place where it's, people who are in it now have been in it pretty much since it started, some of them. And it's, they just keep at it, and it's really, that's very inspiring.
It's really become sort of a close-knit family, and I think even as we get new members, that's one thing that stays pretty constant, is the bond between, the people that have been there for a long time.
Thank you. Cuidándome.
The people who I'm like working with right now, the most consistently, I've been working together with them between 7 and 10 years now. And so it's really cool to have that sort of comfort level with each other. And it's like, sometimes it's like a comfort level that we're so comfortable that it's uncomfortable. That it's like, we know each other really well, and now we're kind of like, that sounds weird, or I don't know.
We're all very close. We all understand each other really well. We've known each other for a really long time. We're there for each other in lots of ways. I really, really enjoy it actually a lot more because I really feel more connected with everybody. We're on the same page. We're melded together a little bit more than we had been in the past.
All of us have strengths and weaknesses, and I think it's cool when we come together and there are certain aspects that, I'm going to understand better than somebody else, or they're going to understand certain things or be able to get certain things better than me. And I think it's just about working together, and that's what we have to do. We have to work together and be the strongest together that we can.
One of the things that's also so beautiful about flamenco is that it's not a solo art form. It's such a collaboration, and how you play with each other or how you respond to each other is what makes the art so beautiful.
It's about a conversation between me and you, and you have something to say and you say it, and then I have something to say and I say it, and between the two there's still this underlying connection, so we have the palo that we're in, whether it's bulerías or soleá or whatever it is, we understand where we are and what language we're speaking, and then we can interject our own emotions and point of view.
You have to listen, you have to compromise, you have to respect other people's tastes, and ultimately at the end of the day, for people to then give themselves up to it, they have to be enjoying it.
Even though it's a very serious art form, you gotta let go a lot of the times too, and realize that you're not perfect and that you might never get it perfect, but that's not what it's about. It's just about doing it if you love it. If you don't love it, don't do it.
What I always tell my kids is don't think, stop thinking, you're thinking too much. And again, that's a mistake that I make a lot, is I want to think about everything, and you can't, it's too fast. You're going to make 100 sounds in a minute, or whatever it might be. You can't think about each one. You don't have time for that. So it's learning to build a technique so much that you can trust that technique and let go of thinking and just, start moving. It takes a really focused, concentrated energy to do that without getting bogged down with the details of things. And that's a really hard thing to do.
All the artists say, tirarse a la piscina, throw yourself into the pool. Throw, like, you know what I mean? That's where you have to get to, confident enough to just throw yourself and just let your feet go and let the music inside of you carry you. And wow, that's the hardest thing in the world. But that's one of the most exhilarating parts of flamenco, I think. Tirarse a la piscina, that's what they say.
Different people have different things to offer, and they all fit into the realm of flamenco in some way or another. And I might prefer one person's way of moving or the way of expressing themselves over another one. Doesn't mean that one is right or wrong. It just means that personally, aesthetically, for me, I prefer one or the other. You know, two artists are completely different. Their sound of their steps are completely different. The articulations of their feet and the way they use their body, but they're equally flamenco and equally beautiful. It's not about just dancing, you know, or playing guitar or singing that, you know, that makes flamenco what it is. You know, it comes from your person, from your soul, de adentro. And that is what's flamenco, the people itself, the culture, you know, what we share with one another. That's what flamenco is, you know, and then it's further manifested through the art within dance and singing and guitar and everything else that comes into play to make flamenco. But it starts from within, and everybody has that.
I think if you have integrity and you work hard and you love the art form and you attain a basket full of skills and knowledge, and then you're true to yourself and your own spirit and the spirit of the art form, and you have studied and worked hard enough to have techniques and tools at your disposal so that your voice is true and honest, or at least as true and as honest as it can be, then I don't know how much more puro you can get than that.
Con el camino que me lleva a tu casa, que salga el sol por donde quiera, pero por la mañana no salga la luna para llevársela a mi amante, porque ya le pongo la estrella pa' su volante. Cariño, un maestro puso un día una cosa de cariño, como mármol me quedé cuando yo vi que te casaras, como mármol me quedé, y a Dios le pido por llorando. Si vaya bien, mientras yo muera rabiando. Si hay que volar, se vuela. Si hay que sufrir, se sufre. Lo que nunca quiero que muera, y hace ti que un día se sufre. Si hay que volar, se vuela. Si hay que sufrir, se sufre. Lo que nunca quiero que muera, y hace ti que un día te tuve. Te olvides, por favor, que tengo nombre. Que soy igual, pero distinto. Lere, le, le. Lere, lere, le, le, le.
I think you need to know the type of people and the types of places that it originally came from. I think you have to try and interface with that idea as much as possible. And I think people do that in thousands of different ways. But because it's a cultural form, a cultural art form, I think you have to do due diligence and even actively honor kind of the people that this art form came from. Does that mean you have to be a gypsy to dance? I don't necessarily think so. But I think it means that you have to really spend a lot of time thinking in both like public and private ways about what it means that this is an art form that belongs to a certain culture.
Cultural and the history of flamenco is something that a lot of people as New Mexicans, it interests them and it helps them to get involved and to want to delve deeper into the study of the art form.
People from New Mexico, I think, are people who are really connected to their traditions and their culture in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of old tradition and old customs that still, live today. And I think that that's why, having flamenco here makes it that much more special, because people can get a sense of that tradition.
The community keeps growing and it's transformed into something so beautiful and important for Albuquerque.
Here in New Mexico, we have a culture, and sometimes not as much as they do in Jerez, of course not, but we get together on the weekends and we jam a little bit, or we geek out on our flamenco, and we rehearse together, and we love it, and it's part of our culture. It's part of what we do, and I feel really fortunate to have this group of friends and this group of people, and we do that, and that's our culture, and we have years doing it.
I don't think that Albuquerque's relationship, or flamenco's existence in Albuquerque, is at a comfortable place ever. It's always sort of changing, and I think there's a lot of in this community that we have. There's a lot of aspirational, ambitious people who aren't willing to settle for some sort of doing just the summer gig, or just having a chance to go to rehearsal every day. There's people who always want a little bit more. There's no easy way to characterize it besides that it's very dynamic. It's it's changing all the time. Yeah. It makes something making another documentary after 5 years important, because it feels different. It doesn't look the same. It's only been 5 years, but it just isn't the same thing anymore.
We're far away from Spain over here. And so we've had to figure out how to cook this in a way that's true to the stew, but make our own stew. Still don't want to call it some other type of stew, though. None of us really want to call our dance form anything but flamenco. because we truly believe that we're making that same stew. And it's still our own. And that to me is really important. It still has to be our own stew. If not, then it's just an imitation of somebody else's.
I need to keep my relationship with Spain and with other places open, but this is definitely my home base, and it helped me to grow into a certain kind of dancer and into a teacher, and it helped to develop a mentality, a humility in the art form and a respect for the art form, and I'm happy that I was able to grow here, and I'm happy to share that with other people too.
One of the things that hasn't changed in the last 5 years is I remember talking to you originally when I look at the Spanish Room video or different things, is talking about how important education was to us. And the thing that hasn't changed is that is still a driving force.
Took a while to get that established, that culture of flamenco, but it's really beautiful to see like such a tight-knit group of students and teachers and everybody who's involved with it, who outside of Spain, who all have an understanding of this art form, and they all really connect with it and they all really respect it, and so being a part of that keeps me going too.
At Tandem, we see a lot a really beautiful idea of, you work really hard and things happen and things change, but you can't give up and you have to keep working hard, and it doesn't happen from today to tomorrow. It doesn't happen, and that goes for your math class, your social studies class, but it also goes for the life skills of how do you work with a group of people, how do you compromise, how do you be flexible, how do you teach yourself how to become a lifelong learner, how do you problem solve, all of those skills that we try to impart, model, demonstrate, and give young people tools so that they can sooner come into their own and sooner have those things available to them so that they have a chance to have more opportunities. More goes at it. The younger you start and the more powerful you are and the more you come into your own as a young person, the more chances you have at experiencing all these wonderful things in life.
Teaching does something to you when you have to share every day that knowledge with somebody else. It's a selfless endeavor, Because of that, there's an integrity in these people that is just incredible. This is undeniable. Flamenco is important to them. Their families are important to them, and other children are important to them. And what those children can do is very important to them. And so Yjastros really exemplifies that. They love flamenco for sure. They also love their other professions, whether it be teaching science or teaching Spanish or teaching English or whatever it is that they're doing. They're trying to instill the flamenco philosophy into that as well. And so Yjastros they're dancers, they're performers, but they're lifelong educators, sharing what it means to grow. And to me, that's like a really wonderful part of what we do.
eso no lo manda. Ay, la ley.
With the fire, even though the fire was a big deal, I'd say a way bigger deal for everybody. I mean, the fire was an event. A way more important event was, how is our friend Ricardo, how is he doing? Because that really is life-changing.
He's a big part of what we do. Yeah, and so it was intense.
We were just having a fantastic time and just, you know, really, really enjoying ourselves and really down with everyone. And it was that everyone wanting to give everything they have, everyone listening to each other, everyone nurturing each other, everyone encouraging each other, everyone being honest with each other. You know, it was some of the best times of my life, and then it also turned into probably one of the most scariest times.
He lived and breathed it more than any of us. So to lose the ability to do that.
The way I had the stroke, it was fine. I did the whole first half of the show like nothing, and then intermission came on, so I got off stage, and I remember cracking my neck, and minutes after that I just started feeling lightheaded, and so I went outside, and that's when the stroke started happening. That's when I started. The right side got weak. I started slurring, so they called the ambulance right away.
About 10 minutes before my show, I got this call from his mom, and I was, this close not to answering it. It was just, it wasn't a good time. I was nervous. I was trying to get ready and prepared to dance, but, I answered it for some reason. Something told me, and at that point, she didn't really know too much. She could just say something happened. They took him in an ambulance in the middle of the show. They don't know what happened, but something happened. But that night, we got in the car and we drove all night and half the rest of the day till we got to where he was. And during the drive over there, we were still, pretty confused, pretty unsure. There was still a lot that wasn't known. I think we even thought that we would be driving back to Albuquerque with him in the car the very next day. His mom had brought blankets and a pillow for him, and but once we got there, we realized pretty quickly that wasn't the case. That things were worse than we thought. Quickly, it became very clear that our goal was to get him out of there and get him back to Albuquerque.
Once I was here, I immediately started feeling better. I was intubated, so I had tubes in my mouth the whole time I was in Texas, so they took out the tubes, and ever since that day, I just went, I just flew. Just being here, like my mom says, being here in the tierra, that helped. Just having friends, and it just kind of got my spirits up a bit. So
And it was a kind of exciting because I was here. I knew a lot of people were praying for me, counting on me. And since I was given a second chance, I feel like I owe it to them to get better, to be there for them.
It was scary, and it was easy for me to lose hope at times, but with him, I don't think he ever lost that. And so he always knew in his heart that he was going to get better, and to this day, he's like, he knows that it's not going to stop him. I remember the first time he did, he was still in the hospital, and he held his guitar, and it was just realizing that he couldn't play like he used to, and I think that was hard. And so in the beginning he didn't play it as much, but eventually, little by little, he started picking it up and playing, just starting slow again, taking things super slow until he gets that coordination back.
As far as playing guitar, it's gone maybe from where it was like at 0%. It's probably about like 60%. So it's getting up there. Some people might say it's maybe 18%, but I'm a pretty harsh critic. I might even say 50%. But a lot of the stuff that I'm dealing with now is mechanical stuff, which is muscle memory. More so than like a musical concept or remembering stuff. It's all still in my brain. It's just getting it out of my hands has been the hard part. So I haven't really done too much composing or to kind of see if it's a little different. But a lot of people say it will be different because of what I went through. And that's exciting to get to that point.
The loss was felt everywhere, through the school, the institute, the university, our personal lives. But everybody, really just came together and supported him and supported us in any way and every way that they could. So it's just incredible, the amount of people that we know, and it's all because of flamenco. The amount of incredible people that we know, I should say, and it's all because of flamenco.
Flamenco, in my case, it's life, it's everyday life. So as long as I'm breathing, I'll be doing flamenco. And of course, throughout this whole time, God has been by my side the whole time. That without Him, I wouldn't be alive, and nothing would have been possible. I just want to give my deepest thanks to everybody that has supported and reached out to me. They all know who they are. The list is too great to name everybody. But there's no words to say thanks, and I'll be forever indebted.
I always knew that there was a special meaning to our being in that building. When we leased the building, there was a mural of my mother on the side of the building. So I knew that that was a really great place. That was where we were supposed to be. And my uncle in the 40s and 50s had his studio right down that block on 2nd and Lead. So I feel like my family has had roots in this part of Albuquerque for a long, long time. So when we lost our building there, I was of course devastated. But I also know that flamenco isn't about a building. We do flamenco because we have to. sometimes we're not even sure it's because we always want to, but it's because we have to. And I never, ever would have imagined 40 years ago that I would be able to be in this world that I'm in right now. And was that building a part of it? Absolutely. Did it help us to get to the next step? Absolutely. But is there something more wonderful for us coming? I want to believe that.
Without, belittling the fire itself, I think that sometimes, the Lord closes doors that have to be closed, but you can't close in order to allow for other doors to open. Even in standing there and watching the building burn down, and my heart went out to Eva, and to Marisol, and to Joaquin, and to everybody who just, everybody was just kind of in shock, and we were feeling a little helpless at that moment. But to me, it's not the space that defines what happens. It's the people who are in that space that define what happens. It's not the space that creates the spirit. It's the people in that space.
It has always been, and is still, as I just said, much more about the people than the space. So we lost the space, but the people kept it going, and the people kept doing exactly what we did before, and we found support in those places, and so it was okay. It was okay.
I mean, we just picked up the ball and kept running. That's just what you gotta do, and that's what we've done, and that's what we are doing still.
I think all of our work since the fire has had like a new sort of hell-bent energy, like let's rebuild. And I think when you can give your work a sort of name like that, like rebuilding, or like proving that we're resilient, right? It's like it's a good challenge, it's a good test of strength. And I think if this organization is full of people who would love to test their strength. So it was a good challenge, and I think it made people excited to get back on our feet. And I think we're there. We're getting there and growing.
I think that we're survivors, and I don't really know how to put it into words. I think that that's what you just do. You keep going, and you all gather together and support one another as best that you can. And if there's any lesson to teach or to learn from that, it's just that that you have no control over some of those things that are going to happen. The elements in the world around you. But what we do have control over is how you choose to move forward. And we just keep on keeping on. I mean, there's nothing else to be done but to move forward.
My final thought is just kind of how blessed we are to have so many people that want to dedicate time and energy in the pursuit of something that is like really cool, to work toward excellence in whatever we're doing, and it takes a lot of time and energy, and it's great to be around people who want to do that.
I'm excited about the potential of the people that I see around me. I think we're going to see people, humans, starting to reach their real potential. And God, I think flamenco might be the gasoline behind it in some way. And that's exciting.
once you've been touched by flamenco, it never goes away. I mean, I'm always going to be in love with it, you know, and it's a passion. It's my life is surrounded and focused on flamenco. If that's what I want to be doing, you know, it's all or nothing for me.
Flamenco just is, and it happens every day and all the time, regardless of who or where or if there's a space or not. It's something that lives within the people.
I'm not gonna I'm only Elena at the NHCC, but I'm not Elena in my kitchen, or I'm only can be myself somewhere. You're yourself everywhere, and part of yourself is that flamenco spirit, you know. So I don't think you pick it up and put it in your bag and take it out when you want to. You don't get to choose, you know. You don't get to decide when to be yourself and when not. I think it's just, you know, coming into being comfortable with being yourself all the time, and that flamenco part of yourself is always present.
You know, flamenco doesn't fit into a box, and it changes and it morphs over the years, over the times, depending on who's doing it, depending on where it is, and I think that it's just going to continue to kind of go that direction. So yeah, I think it's just going to always be changing and always be kind of adapting to the environment that it's in at the given moment.
It's a wild spirit, and you know, we've just had the blessing to be able to experience it in our, you know, time here on this planet. But it belongs to everybody, and it doesn't belong to everybody. It's a wild spirit, you know. It lives within us, so it's very special and unique in that sense.
With what happened here in Albuquerque with the whole fire and me having a stroke, it was devastating on the community. But because flamenco lives forever, it kind of helped everything work together to get out of this. And you know, they're doing a lot on their end, the NIF, to rise out of the ashes, and I'm doing my own part to recover. And eventually those things are just gonna go collide again. And that's where Siempre Flamenco comes from, because it's always gonna exist there. And that day that it collides, I guess, it's gonna be unstoppable.
And that's a wrap.